Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sawdust Factory. Glad to see everybody's tuned in today and checking out this episode of what we got going on. Today I want to talk about doing compound cutting with the scroll saw. Here a good while back, gentleman that I had met by the name of Harry Brink lives out in Montana. Met him online at the Patriot Woodworker Forum, and he does a little scroll sawing like I do, and he had asked me, like I said, quite a while back about doing a little tutorial on it. So Harry, I'm finally getting around to it. This is for you. But compound cutting is basically where you take just a block of wood, and using a two-sided pattern, which I'll show you in just a minute, and you'll come out with something, like a little dog here, or an ornament possibly like this, which this pattern is from Sue May. She has a website which is www.scrollsawartist.com. Definitely, by far, she produces more scroll saw patterns than anybody else in the world. Anywhere from like the compound cuts to clocks, ornaments, portrait style patterns, religious, you name it. She's got it on her site. Definitely, you need to check her out. I will put a link at the bottom of down in the comments whenever we're done. First step, you want to get, of course, you need a little piece of wood about the right size. This pattern I'm going to do today is a little reindeer pattern from Steve Good at the Scroll Saw Workshop. And again, I'll put a link to his site down in the bottom whenever we're done. First thing you want to do, of course, is have your stock cut up to the right size. This is actually a little bit bigger than what I need, which is fine. That won't bother anything. The compound cut is you're going to come in and cut one side, flip it over, cut the other side. And then, what you actually cut is on the inside. Most all of us that scroll saw, when we put a pattern on the wood, we'll put some tape, whether it be the clear packing tape, blue painter's tape, green tape, whatever kind of tape on the wood before you glue your pattern on. It makes it a lot easier to pull the pattern off. Compound cuts, you don't have to worry about that, simply because your final product is actually inside the wood, and you don't have to worry about removing the pattern. First thing you want to do when you get ready to put your pattern on is you need to fold it along this line down the center. Easy way to do that is just to kind of line it up with the edge of your wood and put a good crease in it. That way when you go to lay the pattern on there, it folds right on over real easy. Another thing that you can do is you can actually take and makes it a little bit easier also. Come in and just make a little cut on the edge right there on the ends, and it makes it a little bit easier to make that fold again like that. So for this video, I'm going to use some stick glue. Works pretty good. Spray glue, however you normally glue your patterns on, with any method will work. Rub a little bit of this on there, get a good healthy coat on there, and there we go. Got stuck to my finger. That's always good. tells you your glue is working. Again, just lay it on there. You definitely, with these, need to make sure when you lay the pattern on there, you want it right on that, as absolutely close as you can get it to this line being on the corner of your wood. Now I will put a little bit of clear packing tape over the top of this. On the thicker ones, it does help with lubricating the blade a little bit, especially if you're cutting these out of hardwood. This is just a piece of 2x4 left over from some construction project somewhere along the line, and you can use any kind of hardwoods, whatever you want to do. Cutting this thick of stock can be aggravating sometimes, especially with the harder woods. So that being said, we'll throw some tape on there. Down good and tight. And alright, folks, we're back. Had a little technical difficulty there, but no big deal. We're back. Alright, now before we go over to the saw, I'm going to show you some different clamping methods that can be used. When you're cutting a three-dimensional cut like this, and also you're working with thicker stock, you really need to have it clamped so it makes it a lot easier for you to handle. I've got several different clamping jigs that I've made here. One that I use quite often on some of the smaller pieces, like this dog here, is just good old parallel clamp. A lot of younger woodworkers may not even know what these are. They're kind of an old school clamp, but they do work really good for this. Set your wood in there, clamp it down, and it gives you really good control. Then you can, when you get ready to do your other side, you'll flip it over again, clamp it down. Not really good for really long pieces, just because you don't have real long jaws there. I've got a couple of jigs here that I've made. This is nothing but some 1/2-inch plywood. I used 1/4-inch by 4-inch long eye bolts to make these, and put some T-nuts in there. And you notice I got this part of the T-nut on the outside, so that when you clamp it down, you've got a good smooth surface in there. You don't have anything that's going to interrupt with the pressure that it puts on your stock. Again, just a 1/2-inch plywood. I trimmed them down a little bit just so that you can get your blower in there to blow sawdust off a little bit easier. So far, these have worked really great. Got this one a little bit longer than the other one. These are what I use the most. This is another one that I made last year, I don't know, a good while back anyway. The design for this came out of a book on making chess pieces through compound cutting. Good book. I meant to actually bring it out here so I could show you, but I'll put the title of it in down in the comment section, and so you can check it out if you're ever interested in making a chess set. Really good, really in-depth book. Great patterns in it. Last year, sometime maybe, I'd gotten interested in making a chess set, and I ordered 2 different books. First book that I got, it's done by a lady that designs has designed several hundred compound cut patterns, but honestly, I was very disappointed in that book. Really disappointed in it. Then I got this other one that the design for this jig came out of, and was really, really impressed with it. So this is set up to where you can actually put 2 pieces in here. You can adjust these, and you've got these notches here, which would be to insert your blade. The one drawback to this is if you have a bottom feeding saw like I do, it can be a little aggravating. If you got a top feeding saw like Delta, DeWalt, Excalibur, any of those, it works great. A little bulky, but it works great. Got like I said, you can put actually 2 pieces in there at one time, and cut one, cut the other side, flip them over. Another method that a lot of people use, I'm sure, I don't, just because I don't really like it. I have tried it, is to you need a couple of pieces of scrap, close to the same size as what you're cutting, and take your little squeezy clamps, and just set them up like that. And if your scrap is a little bit long, you can see that you're going to have some aggravation like I'm having here. That's one of the drawbacks to using these, is I feel like you have to have your stock the same size, so, or close to it. With that being said, I think that's pretty much everything about the clamping and the pattern putting on and all that good stuff. So I'm going to pause for just a second, get the camera moved over by the saw, and we'll end up coming back, and you'll get to watch me hopefully successfully cut out this little reindeer. Be right back, folks. Alright, we got ourselves situated over here at the saw, and I'm going to show you how to set it up in the little clamping jig, which is pretty simple. On these, on the compound cuts, I will normally cut the narrow side first. Drop it in my jig, move it up, and just go ahead and clamp it in place. You don't need to clamp it to death. You just want it to hold good, and try to I try to get it as centered in the jig as possible, and just clamp it real firm. There we go. I've already got a new blade installed, got the speed set and everything. Blades. We'll go ahead and talk about blades before I start cutting this. I use, on something this thick, I will use a number 5 Flying Dutchman polar blade, which is um, Polar. It is a skip tooth fret blade. Skip tooth blades work really good for doing this compound cutting. Um, reason being, they remove the chips a lot more efficiently, and you're cutting through a pretty thick piece of stock, and it's sandwiched in there, so you don't have a lot of the, your sawdust, your chips don't fly out like if you were working on a flat piece. Um, in my opinion, I definitely do not recommend using like the Flying Dutchman Ultra Reverses, two-way cuts, any of those. They don't work as good as the skip tooth blades. Use whatever brand of blade you want to use. That's up to you. My preferred blades are Flying Dutchmans that I get from Mike's Workshop. www.mikesworkshop.com. On the smaller ones, I say something that's 3/4 by about 1. I would use a number 3 blade, or if it's a little more intricate, like that ornament that I showed you earlier, where you've got some really detailed cuts, you might want to use a number 3. But 3s and 5s are, what I use, primarily 5s. So, that being said, we're going to go ahead and start cutting. I'm going to cut this notch in between the legs here. I'll cut that out first. That being said, a lot of, or some of your designers say that you have to, keep that waist in there and tape it back in place and all this hoo-ha. I've cut hundreds of these compound cut ornaments, reindeers, little angels, all kind of different stuff. I quit doing that a long time ago. I don't see where it's necessary if you've got a good clamping jig. But we'll once I get this side cut, we'll go over that a little bit more. That being said, let's cut. Alright, we got the notch cut. I'm going to come up this, it'd be, as I'm looking at it, it's the right hand side. Come up, come all the way down and exit back out here, and we'll have this side cut. So it's going to take a couple minutes, so just sit back and enjoy. And that's always fun. At least it happened early in the cut. blade came loose at the bottom. No biggie. That's what you keep some needle nose pliers handy for. Yeah, a little bend in it, but that's alright. It'll still cut. And in there, that can get a little aggravating when you're almost all the way to the end here. Let's pause for a second. Alright, here we go again. Let's throw a little tension on there. There we go. Now, I'm at the end of this antler here, and what I'm going to do is called a 280 maneuver, 280 cut, whatever. Basically, I'm just going to come out and swing the stock around, and it'll leave a little round, cut there at the very end, but it allows you to line back up and get a really good point, and that's something that you can do, any kind of fret work that you're doing, compound cuts, whatever. So alright, and we're back at the saw. I've already got my workpiece set up in the jig, and when you put your workpiece in here, you don't need to Yeah, you need to clamp it snug, but you don't need to strangle it to death either. So, as far as blades go, the blade that I'm using for this is a number 5 Polar blade from Flying Dutchman. Um, it is a skip tooth blade. They really work the best as far as cleaning out your chips and everything on these compound cuts. I've tried the Ultra Reverses, the two-way cuts, and some of the others, and they just don't work as good as this Polar blade does. So that's my blade recommendation. For something as thick as this is, definitely I would say use the number 5. The smaller pieces, 3/4 inch wide by 1 inch, maybe use a number 3. Those are the 2 blades that I use for doing these compound cuts. So with that being said, I'm going to cut this notch out here between the legs, and then come on around and just cut all the way out. So let's get it cut. Got notch cut out in between the legs, and I'm just going to come on around, starting on the, as I'm looking at it, the right hand side. One thing you definitely want to do on these is stay just to the outside of your lines, simply because some of these spots get like down here at the base of the horns and all, these spots get a little bit thin. Because you got to think you're cutting the other side also. So definitely stay right to the outside of the line. antler, what I'm going to do is what's called a 280-degree maneuver. Basically, I'm going to bring the blade around, spin it, and you'll end up with a little, little circular cut right there, which doesn't affect anything, but it allows you to come straight down onto this other point and come down to the inside of the antler. So now that I've got you totally confused, we'll demonstrate that, and you'll get an idea of what I'm doing. Basically, all you're doing is spinning the wood around as the blade is cutting, and like I said, that allows you to get a lot sharper point there instead of trying to come around it. So you're coming straight down into your cut there. So. Alright, and there we have it. We've got this part cut. I'm going to take it out the jig and go over a couple things here. I normally will tap it like that and maybe even slide it out just a little bit. You can actually really, on most of these, slide them most of the way out and knock some of that sawdust out of there and slide it back in. Now, this brings up a good point. See, it will fall all the way out. So some of these pattern designers typically will tell you that you must, tape this back in place and, do all of that before you make your other cut. I have no clue why they tell you that. When you set it down in your jig and tighten it up, it stays in place. Simple as that. So now, if it has any inside cuts like that ornament that I showed you earlier from Sue May, then yes, you need to wrap some tape around there to keep your waste in place, because it helps support the other pieces that you're cutting on that are on the inside. So, but if it's just no inside cuts, something like this, that's up to you. If you want to tape it, that's fine. I don't see any use in it. So I'm gonna open this jig up a little bit. We'll drop it down in there. Where we at there? There we go. Snug it up. There we go. We're good to go. I'm gonna cut this inside notch for between the legs there, and then I'll come on around and cut the rest of it. So jig, and it's kind of like a Christmas present. We're going to unwrap it, and we'll see what we got here. Definitely, you want to be careful when you're taking these compound cuts out of the out of your waste wood, simply because sometimes I've had it happen where you go to pry a piece loose, a piece of the waste, and you'll end up breaking what's on the inside. So again, carefully pull this out, and we'll get that waste out of there, and knock a little dust off, give it a little, and there you have it. We have a 3D compound cut little reindeer. These are a great little thing to make for if you do a lot of craft shows, especially at Christmas time. I typically will make about 50 to 60 of them, and just give them to the kids as they come by your booth. A neat little thing to give to them. Gets parents to stop and take a look around also. So it's a good little selling tool, and they're just they're fun to make. They say that I know there's plenty of guys out there that do cut these freehand. I've never attempted it. Just go at it without any kind of pattern. One of these days I'm gonna attempt it, just not today. Hopefully you have learned something, or you've at least enjoyed the video. I'm always open for comments, questions, whatever. Leave your comments below. Got any questions, hit me up. I'll post a link to my Facebook page. You can stop by the Sawdust Factory GA on Facebook. Check out some more of my work. And hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Give me a like. If you didn't like it, dislike it. Got any constructive criticism, leave me a comment. I'm always open for anything that will help me improve my videos, for sure. Just don't be hating on me. I try not to hate on anybody, so that's all I'm asking. Give me some good comments, bad comments, constructive, whatever. With that being said, we're going to call this video done and wrap it on up. Get it uploaded as soon as possible. I will look down below in the comments. I'm going to put some links in there to the different sites and different people that I've mentioned, and definitely check them out. If I didn't want you to check them out, I wouldn't have mentioned them. So, with that being said, I'm glad you watched. Thank you.